I am standing on a wood chip pile overlooking Mimosa Forest. Are you ready for a garden tour, permaculture style, like you've never seen? Let's get into it. Hey guys, my name is Malcolm Heath. I am the owner of Forest of Eden Fig Farm and Nursery, and I am also the admin of the North Carolina Gardening and Permaculture group. And today, I wanted to give you guys a little tour of what we do here on the farm. This is where you pull up to my driveway. We've got a couple of Texas Star Hibiscus, a Japanese red maple. I've done a little chop and drop here. Now this here is you can kind of see where it's elevated. That's actually a wood chip path. And I'm gonna redo that. And this is gonna be a giant flower bed in this area. We've got a peach tree. This is this little section kind of like right here. This is like the figs that I'm not sure are gonna make it. Kind of needs weeding, but I do that periodically, just checking for the figs. This is kind of the first fig that has made it, but again, needs to be weeded. Tons and tons of figs. More figs over here with some potatoes. We've got grapes and weeping willow and pin oak and raspberries and blackberries all through here. This here is the beginning of some watermelons, some blueberries, more figs as we talked about, some nitrogen fixing trees through here, and the potatoes. This is what we call the commercial garden, this section right here. Eggplants, peppers. You can see some zucchini in the background, but most of those have been pulled out due to some boring insect issues. This is a nice little section of watermelon in here. Different varieties of basil. And back to the watermelon sections. Some peppers. And a watermelon kind of invading the peppers. Lots of beans through here. If I had to do this over again, I'd use a slightly bigger container. That's a ground cherry right there. You can see all the fruits on the floor. And here's a big section of nitrogen fixers. We got Kentucky coffee tree, mimosa, Caspian locust, honey locust, black locust. Here's a Chinese parsnip. This is a calamandan tree, which is a combo between a kumquat and a mandarin. And here we can just walk through some of the food forest. One of my hibiscus. And this is kind of the fig section of the food forest. We've got some different premium varieties. One day I'll do a tour of all of these. And as you see, here's a nitrogen fixer. There's a fig tree, there's a fig tree. So for every fig tree, I usually have about 1 to 2 nitrogen fixers that are trees as well. That's a Zafiro fig, which I'm very scared might not make it. It's still green when I cut at it though. Area of some chop and drop. This here is a beautiful black mission, a white Marseille, an Oak Street unknown, and that's a Grantham's Royal. Raspberry, that's a heritage. Nitrogen fixing mimosa, another nitrogen fixer. Some golden fennel, which you should be able to see the pollinators and stuff in there. If this camera's doing good, you can see like the wasps and the bees, and lots of other insects love this, which there's a fig here at the base of it. And just so you know, that direction right there is south. So it's getting plenty of sun in that position. And more figs. That right there is a wisteria my grandmother planted many, many moons ago. Ronin swing set. And we're just walking more through the fig section of the food forest. Some of this needs to be chopped and dropped more than others. This is a brown turkey fig right here. Eastern red bud. That is an American persimmon tree with some butterfly bush and Texas star hibiscus underneath it. This is an elderberry with some purslane and a raspberry. Comfrey with a persimmon tree. This tree looks like it's getting a little persimmon leaf curl on it, but not as bad as my other one. I wonder if it's coming from the other one. You can see this tree leaning a little bit, which tells me I need to chop and drop the comfrey that's pushing it that way. And this persimmon is a fuyu. Here's the requisite nitrogen fixer. This is another persimmon. Let me see which one this is. This is also a fuyu persimmon with much less leaf curl. And this is my hachia persimmon, which unfortunately has always had some leaf curl issues, but this is the straightest I've ever seen the leaves, so I think it's starting to grow out of it. Another requisite nitrogen fixer. And this is the only mulberry that I have left, which I need to get in here and weed, but what you can't see underneath here is the massive amount of fire ants that we cannot seem to get rid of. A pond, which is where we're going to connect berms and swales. This here's our mayhaw tree. A pawpaw right behind it. Here's a chestnut, I believe. More nitrogen fixers. These are all pine berries through here. And there's asparagus in here as well, purple and green. Another pawpaw. Now this little thing is sometimes called a silverberry, but it's Elaeagnus ebongay, and it is a extremely good nitrogen fixer. Get some onions growing here with this, I want to say that's a chestnut or maybe a pecan. Had one of my best mulberries growing here. It was the Shangri-La mulberry, but not doing so hot. I'm pretty sure it's not coming back. More figs. And as you can see, tons of the figs. Now we're moving into our pollinator bed, which has got a lot of black-eyed Susan at the moment, but has various different flowers. More areas that need to be chopped and dropped, but there's blueberries in here, figs, black-eyed Susan. Yeah, you can see a little blueberry tucked in there. More blueberry and another fig tree. And this is actually where one of the cats were buried. Another blueberry. A requisite mimosa with some pokeberry growing out of it. Another mimosa. More and more fig trees. There's an eastern red bud and a small wisteria. There's strawberries and blueberries through this bed as well. Again, just need to do the chop and drop thing. Now this is our Methley plum with comfrey underneath it. My work table and a little shaded spot for plants to kind of acclimatize. Oh, this basil's doing really well. I actually left it out here to die. Huh. Now this is a peach tree, or a nectarine rather, with some marigolds, some rosemary, some dill, That's a raspberry, or no, I'm sorry, a blackberry and a strawberry courtesy of Deline Fisher. And that's kind of the broad strokes of the front yard food forest and container garden. So now I'll take you guys around to some other areas. This here is kind of my fertilization station. Also, this is Ronan's pool. He'll be here later today. And I use this area to cure things as well. So right now we got onions curing, garlic curing, some shallots curing. All my different soil mixes and things like that are shoved in bags that have labels that aren't right, but it is what it is. You can even see the rabbit manure chilling over there. Over here we've got the guinea pigs. Now this weeking noise that they're making tells me that either they want something or they're just excited to see me, and they've got food and water, so it's got to be excitement. Whenever I pull zucchini out, like I said, we were having boring issues. They get to hang onto that. Now these two bunnies on this porch are actually Flemish giants. And we're actually gonna put a door. Hold on, let me show you over here. Flemish giants can get 4 foot tall when they're standing on their hind legs. You can see the sweet potato growing in place for the rabbits. But yeah, still got a good amount of manure here. We're gonna put a door right here to allow us access to that. But these rabbits get huge. And I've been experimenting with putting some wood chips at the bottom of the cage and just kind of letting them play with it. The guinea pigs really like spreading those wood chips out, but so far, not so much with the Flemish giants. And then Bucky and Ruby over here, my 2 New Zealands. Massive piles of wood chips. And we're heading over here into the backyard garden now. This is a pollinator bed full of creeping thyme and hyssop, which you can see the pollinators loving this. This is my garlic bed, but right now it's being occupied by beans, and there's a broccoli plant as well that needs to go to the rabbits. Watermelon, which is doing really well, despite the fact that these pathways are still grass and need to be cut down and wood chipped, which this is my ideal garden right here where the wood chips begin. Some Costata Romanesca zucchini, a couple of weeds that need to pull out, and some oregano that needs to go as well. Peppers galore, which I don't think this one actually has any peppers on it, but it does have plenty of flowers. We've got a lot of peppers over here, and they are starting to ripen beautifully. Even more peppers over here. All of these were Lesia, but some of the Lesia didn't do so well. But this is what a Lesia pepper looks like. They're pretty large, and they've got an interesting shape to them. My cucumbers on a string trellis. I actually do come in here and prune the leaves off quite a bit, but this summer weather with the rain and the heat is causing this thing to go gangbusters. So we're going to prune this a little bit today and come out here and get a small harvest. My tomatoes, I have to say, I'm rather disappointed in. The boring insects have really liked my garden this year, and the tomatoes are no exception. At one point, just a few weeks ago, I was very proud of how my tomatoes were doing. Not so much anymore. So I'll be taking out the bad plants and feeding them to the rabbits as well. And we're going to replace with pole beans. Now this is my pride and joy. This is a watermelon patch. The wood chips are about a foot deep over here, maybe a little bit more. And you can barely see them. There are so many watermelons beginning to form on this area. This will be the way I do watermelons from this point on. Here's my compost base surrounded by blackberries and comfrey. Definitely need some work. Coming in here pruning a lot of this stuff. This is all leaf mold. And around here we're coming to the grow room, which is this whole building right here. We won't go in there today, but that'll be a field trip for another time. But this is where I do most of my germinating, either in the building or outside here, hardening things off. And you can see we've even got some initial germination on some thornless honey locust. A lot of these are weeds, but I'm still giving them a chance. Some of my alders, I got 0% germination on, so I'm just hoping that some of them will yield some results. Same thing over here. A lot of these are like trees and perennials. This is the last of the stuff I'm taking to the farmer's market. I've got more 1 gallon like nitrogen fixers that I can take, but as far as the small cells, and these small cells here, looks like they need some water, but I just started these last night, and I'm very pleased with them. We got beans, tomatoes, the pole beans I mentioned earlier, some spinach going, and radishes, and some different things along those lines. And over here, the pièce de la résistance, this is my apple tree. Now I only have one. I need to get a pollinator for it. But it's intended to provide a little shade to this area. I'm gonna get some more trees in this to also do that. But it's my first experiment with I forget what this is called, but basically it's a really intensive training and pruning method. And it's got like a French name to it. Maybe you guys can help me remember it. But it's my first time trying it, and I really like the results. Anyways, guys, this has been Malcolm with Forest of Eden Fig Farm and Nursery, representing North Carolina Gardening and Permaculture. I hope you enjoyed this trip around my garden, and I hope you'll join us next time.